Welcome to Tamas English, and today's story is The Tale of Samuel Whiskers by Beatrix Potter. The story is also called The Roly Holy Pudding. Some kittens there in their house in front of the fire, and maybe a naughty kitten there. And some kittens hiding behind the wall. Let's see what happens. Once upon a time, there was an old cat called Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit, who was an anxious parent. That means she worried a lot. She used to lose her kittens continually. That means all the time. And whenever they were lost, they were always in mischief. In mischief means doing something naughty. On baking day, she decided to shut them up in a cupboard. She caught Moppet and Mittens, but she could not find Tom. Mrs. Tabitha went up and down all over the house, mewing for Tom Kitten. She looked in the pantry, under the staircase, and she searched the best spare bedroom that was all covered up with dust sheets. She went right upstairs and looked into the attics. That's the very top small room in a house, but she could not find him anywhere. It was an old house full of cupboards and passages. Some of the walls were 4 feet thick, and there used to be queer noises, that means strange, inside them, as if there might be a little secret staircase. Certainly there were odd little jagged doorways in the wainscot, and things disappeared at night, especially cheese and bacon. Gee, I wonder what animal might steal some cheese. Let's see what happens. Mrs. Tabitha became more and more distracted and mewed dreadfully. Meow, meow. Look at that. She looks very scared, doesn't she? While their mother was searching the house, Moppet and Mittens, that's the name of the 2 kittens, had got into mischief. That means they've done something naughty. The cupboard door was not locked, so they pushed it open and came out. Uh-oh, something bad's gonna happen, I think. They went straight to the dough, which was set to rise in a pan before the fire. That means in front of the fire. The dough was there. They were going to make it into bread. Be nice and warm in front of the fire so the dough would rise up. They patted it with their little soft paws. "Shall we make dear little muffins?" said Mittens to Moppet. But just at that moment, somebody knocked at the front door and Moppet jumped into the flour barrel in a fright. Ooh, in she goes into the flour barrel. Mittens ran away to the dairy. That's where they keep all the milk and the cream, and hid in an empty jar on the stone shelf where the milk pans stand. Can you see where Mittens might be hiding? Maybe that one? The visitor was a neighbour, Mrs. Ribby. She had called to borrow some yeast. Yeast you need to make bread. Makes the bread rise up nice and fluffy. And there she is. Mrs. Tabitha came downstairs mewing dreadfully. Mrs. Tabitha came downstairs mewing dreadfully. Come in, Cousin Ribby, come in, and sit ye down. I'm in sad trouble, Cousin Ribby, said Tabitha, shedding tears. That means crying. I've lost my dear son Thomas. I'm afraid the rats have got him. She wiped her eyes with her apron. He's a bad kitten, Cousin Tabitha. He's made a cat's cradle of my best bonnet last time I came to tea. Where have you looked for him? All over the house. The rats are too many for me. What a thing it is to have an unruly family. Unruly means naughty or badly behaved, said Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit. Oh, she's looking around to try to find where the kittens might be hiding. I'm not afraid of rats. I will help you to find him and whip him too. Whip him, smack him for being naughty. What is all that soot in the fender? That there, she's saying, what is that stuff? Can you see where the kitten might be hiding? Ah, I can see something there. The chimney wants sweeping. Oh dear me, Cousin Ribby, now Moppet and Mittens are gone. They have both got out of the cupboard. Looking inside the cupboard with a candle for light, they cannot see them anywhere. Ribby and Tabitha set to work to search the house thoroughly again. They poked under the beds with Ribby's umbrella, and they rummaged in cupboards. They even fetched a candle and looked inside a clothes chest in one of the attics. They could not find anything, but once they heard a door bang and somebody scuttered downstairs. Yes, it is infested with rats, said Tabitha tearfully. I caught 7 young ones out of one hole in the back kitchen, and we had them for dinner last Saturday. And once I saw the old father rat, an enormous old rat, Cousin Ribby. I was just going to jump upon him when he showed his yellow teeth at me and whisked down the hole. Whisked means run very fast. The rats get upon my nerves, Cousin Ribby, said Tabitha. get on her nerves. That means they annoy her. She doesn't like those rats. Ribby and Tabitha searched and searched. They both heard a curious roly-poly noise under the attic floor, but there was nothing to be seen. Oh, looks like they found one. They returned to the kitchen. "Here's one of your kittens, at least," said Ribby, dragging Moppet out of the flour barrel. They shook the flour off her and set her down on the kitchen floor. She seemed to be in a terrible fright. "Oh, Mother, Mother," said Moppet. "There's been an old woman rat in the kitchen and she's stolen some of the dough." The two cats ran to look at the dough pan. Sure enough, there were marks of little scratching fingers, and a lump of dough was gone. "Which way did she go, Moppet?" But Moppet had been too much frightened to peep out of the barrel again. Ribby and Tabitha took her with them to keep her safely in sight while they went on with their search. Uh-oh, and look at that. Looks like the naughty old lady rat. They went into the dairy. There they are in the dairy, looking around. Poor little Moppet looking very scared. The first thing they found was Mittens hiding in an empty jar. They tipped up the jar and she scrambled out. "Oh, Mother, Mother," said Mittens. What's that there? It looks like a naughty old fat rat stealing some food there. "Oh, Mother, Mother, there has been an old man rat in the dairy. A dreadful, enormous, big rat, Mother, and he's stolen a pat of butter and the rolling pin." Wonder what they're going to do with the rolling pin. Ribby and Tabitha looked at one another. "A rolling pin and butter? Oh, my poor son Thomas," exclaimed Tabitha, wringing her paws. "A rolling pin?" said Ribby. "Did we not hear a roly-poly noise in the attic when we were looking into that chest?" Wonder what happened with that. Ribby and Tabitha rushed upstairs again. Sure enough, the roly-poly noise was still going on, quite distinctly, very clearly, under the attic floor. There's the dog. I wonder if the dog can help them. "This is serious, Cousin Tabitha," said Ribby. "We must send for John Joyner at once with a saw." John Joyner must be the dog, I guess. And there's the cat looking out. She looks a little bit afraid. Poor little Miss Moppet. Now, this is what had been happening to Tom Kitten, and it shows how very unwise, not clever, it is to go up a chimney in a very old house, where a person does not know his way, and where there are enormous rats. Tom Kitten did not want to be shut up in a cupboard. When he saw that his mother was going to bake, he decided to hide. He looked about for a nice, convenient place. Convenient means easy. And he fixed upon the chimney. The fire had only just been lighted, and it was not hot, but there was a white, choky smoke from the green sticks. Oh, the smoke's a bit choky. Tom Kitten got upon the fender and looked up. It was a big, old-fashioned fireplace. The chimney itself was wide enough inside for a man to stand up and walk about. So there was plenty of room for a little tomcat. A tomcat means a boy cat. He's going to go up there, I think. That could be dangerous. He jumped right up into the fireplace, balancing himself upon the iron bar where the kettle hangs. Right up there. Little tail hanging down. Tom Kitten took another big jump off the bar and landed on a ledge high up inside the chimney, knocking down some soot into the fender. Tom Kitten coughed and choked with the smoke, and he could hear the sticks beginning to crackle and burn in the fireplace down below. He made up his mind to climb right to the top and get out on the slates, that means the roof tiles, and try to catch sparrows, the little brown birds. I cannot go back. If I slipped, I might fall in the fire and singe my beautiful tail and my little blue jacket. Yeah, look, that's the very top of the house. That's the slates there. The top of the chimney. I wonder if he can get out of the chimney. The chimney was a very big old-fashioned one. It was built in the days when people burnt logs of wood upon the hearth. The chimney stack stood up above the roof like a little stone tower, and the daylight shone down from the top under the slanting slates that kept out the rain. It's very dark in there. Tom Kitten was getting very frightened. He climbed up and up and up. There he is in the dark. Then he waded sideways through inches of soot. He was like a little sweep himself. It was most confusing in the dark. One flue seemed to lead into another. The flue is the inside of the chimney. There was less smoke, but Tom Kitten felt quite lost. He scrambled up and up, but before he reached the chimney top, he came to a place where somebody had loosened a stone in the wall. There were some mutton bones lying about. Mutton is sheep bones. "This seems funny," said Tom Kitten. "Who has been gnawing bones up here in the chimney?" Gnawing means chewing. "I wish I had never come. And what a funny smell. It is something like mouse, only dreadfully strong. It makes me sneeze," said Tom Kitten. Oh, looks a bit dirty up there. And a little bit scary too, I think. He squeezed through the hole in the wall and dragged himself along a most uncomfortably tight passage where there was scarcely any light. It's very dark there. He groped his way carefully for several yards. He was at the back of the skirting board in the attic, where there is a little mark in the picture. Just down there, he was behind that, around the back. All at once, he fell head over heels in the dark, down a hole, and landed on a heap of very dirty rags. When Tom Kitten picked himself up and looked about him, he found himself in a place that he had never seen before, although he had lived all his life in the house. Sounds a bit scary. It was a very small, stuffy, fusty room. I guess fusty means it smells funny. With boards and rafters and cobwebs and lath and plaster. Opposite to him, as far away as he could sit, was an enormous rat. There's the rat there, and there's Tom. "What do you mean by tumbling into my bed all covered with smuts?" said the rat, chattering his teeth. "Please, sir, the chimney wants sweeping," said poor Tom Kitten. "Anna Maria! Anna Maria!" squeaked the rat. There was a pattering noise, and an old woman rat poked her head round a rafter. And there's Anna Maria, I suppose. All in a minute, she rushed upon Tom Kitten, and before he knew what was happening, his coat was pulled off, and he was rolled up in a bundle and tied with string in very hard knots. Anna Maria did the tying. The old rat watched her and took snuff. That's like tobacco. He chews the tobacco. Quite disgusting. When she had finished, they both sat staring at him with their mouths open. "Anna Maria," said the old man rat, whose name was Samuel Whiskers, "Anna Maria, make me a kitten dumpling roly-poly pudding for my dinner." Oh, that sounds scary. "It requires dough and a pat of butter and a rolling pin," said Anna Maria, considering Tom Kitten with her head on one side. "No," said Samuel Whiskers, "make it properly, Anna Maria, with breadcrumbs." And there's Tom Kitten, poor little boy, all tied up. And there's Anna Maria grabbing Tom, poor little fellow. And there's Samuel Whiskers telling her how to make the roly-poly pudding. "Nonsense! Butter and dough," replied Anna Maria. The two rats consulted, that means they talked, together for a few minutes and then went away. Samuel Whiskers got through a hole in the wainscot, guess that means the wall, and went boldly down the front staircase to the dairy to get the butter. He did not meet anybody. There he is. He's got the rolling pin. Gonna roll someone up, I think. He made a second journey for the rolling pin. He pushed it in front of him with his paws, like a brewer's man trundling a barrel. A brewer makes a beer or of the drinks and they put them in a big barrel. So the man needs to move the barrel, he'll roll it along. Just like Samuel Whiskers is rolling the rolling pin there. He could hear Ribby and Tabitha talking, but they were busy lighting the candle to look into the chest. They did not see him. There he is, sneaking out. Or maybe that's Anna Maria. It says here, Anna Maria went down by way of the skirting board and a window shutter to the kitchen to steal the dough. Uh-oh. There she is, getting some dough. And who's watching her, do you think? Who saw her? Little Miss Moppet there. She borrowed a small saucer and scooped up the dough with her paws. She did not observe Moppet. Observe means see. She did not see Moppet. While Tom Kitten was left alone under the floor of the attic, he wriggled about and tried to mew for help. Mew, mew. But his mouth was full of soot and cobwebs, that means spiderwebs, and he was tied up in such very tight knots he could not make anybody hear him, except a spider which came out of a crack in the ceiling and examined the knots critically from a safe distance. It was a judge of knots, that means to see how good the knots were, because it had a habit of tying up unfortunate blue bottles. It did not offer to assist him. So the spider, it knew what a good knot was and what a bad knot was, but it wasn't going to help him. Tom Kitten wriggled and squirmed until he was quite exhausted. It means exhausted is tired. Look at him, poor little there. There's a spider watching him all tied up. Presently, that means soon, presently the rats came back and set to work to make him into a dumpling. Ooh. First, they smeared him with butter. Smeared means they wiped it all over him. Smeared him with butter, and then they rolled him in the dough. Will not the string be very indigestible, Anna Maria? That means difficult to eat. Inquired Samuel Whiskers. Inquired means asked. They're looking at him, trying to roll him up. Anna Maria said she thought that it was of no consequence. That means it doesn't matter. But she wished that Tom Kitten would hold his head still, as it disarranged, it made it messy, it disarranged the pastry. Pastry is the stuff made of flour and water that goes on the outside of a pie. She laid hold of his ears. She's got him there by the ears. Tom Kitten bit and spat and mewed and wriggled. And the rolling pin went roly-poly, roly-roly, poly-roly. The rats each held an end. Got one there and one there. Meow. Poor little kitten. His tail is sticking out. You did not fetch enough dough, Anna Maria. I fetched as much as I could carry, replied Anna Maria. I do not think, said Samuel Whiskers, pausing to take a look at Tom Kitten, I do not think it will be a good pudding. It smells sooty. Soot's the black stuff in the chimney. Anna Maria was about to argue the point when all at once there began to be other sounds up above. The rasping noise of a saw and the noise of a little dog scratching and yelping. Uh-oh. Wonder if they're scared of a dog, because they're not scared of a little cat, are they? the rats dropped the rolling pin and listened attentively. That means carefully. They listened attentively. We are discovered. Someone found them. Discovered and interrupted. Anna Maria, let us collect our property and other people's and depart at once. Property means the things that belong to them. I fear that we shall be obliged. Be obliged is that you must. We shall be obliged to leave this building. But I am persuaded that the knots would have proved indigestible. Whatever you may urge, to the contrary urges to say that you really think something is like that. And to the contrary means the opposite. She said they were digestible, easy to eat, and he said they were indigestible. That means not easy to eat. Come away at once and help me to tie up some mutton bones in a counterpane. A counterpane must be a bit of cloth, I think, said Anna Maria. I have got half a smoked ham hidden in the chimney. Look, there's the hole cut in the wood. Looks like and someone's coming through the hole to save poor Tom Kitten. So it happened that by the time John Joiner, the dog, had got the plank up, there was nobody under the floor except the rolling pin and Tom Kitten in a very dirty dumpling. But there was a strong smell of rats, and John Joiner spent the rest of the morning sniffing and whining and wagging his tail and going around and around with his head in the hole like a gimlet. And there they are, look with it. No, I don't know what a gimlet is. And there they are cleaning up poor old Tom Kitten. And there's John Joiner the dog. He's already done his job and he's about to leave, I guess. I think they're giving him a bit of cake. Then he nailed the plank down again and put his tools in his bag and came downstairs. The cat family had quite recovered. They invited him to stay to dinner. The dumpling had been peeled off Tom Kitten and made separately into a bag pudding with currants in it to hide the smuts. The smuts is the dirty bits. Currants is the dried grapes, right? Very lovely and sweet. They had been obliged to put Tom Kitten into a hot bath to get the butter off. John Joiner smelt the pudding, but he regretted that he had not time to stay to dinner because he had just finished making a wheelbarrow for Miss Potter and she had ordered 2 hen coops. So hen cages. And when I was going to the post late in the afternoon, I looked up the lane from the corner and I saw Mr. Samuel Whiskers and his wife on the run with big bundles on a little wheelbarrow, which looked very like mine. They were just turning in at the gate to the barn of Farmer Potatoes. Samuel Whiskers was puffing and out of breath. Anna Maria was still arguing in shrill tones. She seemed to know her way, and she seemed to have a quantity, that means a lot, of luggage. I am sure I never gave her leave, that means never said she could, never gave her leave to borrow my wheelbarrow. There they are, loading all the stuff into the wheelbarrow. They went into the barn and hauled their parcels with a bit of string to the top of the haymow. Oh, there we go. So they're taking it to the top of the hay stack or the haymow, lifting all their stuff up to hide it in the barn. And there's Mrs. Tabitha Twitcher, the mother of the kittens. Says, after that, there were no more rats for a long time at Tabitha Twitchett's. As for Farmer Potatoes, he has been driven nearly distracted. There are rats, rats, and rats in his barn. They eat up the chicken food and steal the oats and bran and make holes in the meal bags. Look at them. Terrible. There are so many rats. And they are all descended from Mr. and Mrs. Samuel Whiskers, children and grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. There is no end to them. Means there's so many you cannot count them all. Whoa. Moppet and Mittens have grown up into very good rat catchers. They go out rat catching in the village and they find plenty of employment, plenty of work. They charge so much a dozen and earn their living very comfortably. Wow, look, they're catching rats. They hang up the rats' tails in a row on the barn door to show how many they have caught. Dozens and dozens of them. Oh no! But Tom Kitten has always been afraid of a rat. He never durst face anything that is bigger than a mouse. Never durst means never dares. So look, there he is. He doesn't really care to touch them. And that's the end of the story. I hope you liked that. You can subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and you can sign up to find out about new stories from our website. Thank you. Bye.